Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Saturday Morning Cartoons. What I have here today is something very special, at least special to me. We got Spike Spiegel and we got Vicious. The real Spike and Vicious. Oh, he said it. And they are, of course, from Cowboy Bebop. And I don't know if anime counts as Saturday Morning Cartoons in the strictest sense, but it is my show, so I'm going to do what I want to do. A few months ago, just before Christmas, I was at Walmart and I saw Spike. And I thought, that looks really cool. I would love to have a figure of Spike, but he doesn't really match up to anything else that I have. He would kind of be off on his own, so I put him back on the shelf. And then a few weeks ago, actually I think it was just last week, I was at Walmart and I saw they had Vicious. And now I got these two. I don't care if they don't make anything else from the series. I have the two mains, I have the two BAs themselves, Spike and Vicious, and this is going to be great. I am not familiar with this line at all. I know they're put out by loyal subjects, and I'm assuming the BST is supposed to be best, because it says best features, best articulation, best assortment. Don't know what the AXN is supposed to be. But let's take a look at these in the packaging. That we have a real big window over here, so you see the figure, you see the accessories that come with him. You have some great artwork of Spike in his coolest form ever, right here on the side. Just like with Vicious, you got him looking oh so vicious. Down here we have the Cowboy Bebop logo, Spike's name. On the side, just a big window. Up top, just a big window to let light down into it. Over here, we have some of that great noir artwork. We have it here for Vicious as well. That looks great. And then on the back, these are, I believe, digital renderings of the figures. These are not actually anime artwork. And then you also have a look at the accessories that he comes with, and you have a little bit of a bio for each one of them. So there's Spike, if you want to pause it and read that. And there's Vicious, if you want to pause it and read that. Now they say Spike has 31 points of articulation. They say Vicious only has 29 points of articulation. What 2 points is Vicious missing that Spike has? Well, let's get these boys open. Let's take a look at them, and let's find out. And let's take a look at loyal subjects, Cowboy Bebop, Spike Spiegel, and Vicious. So, of course, we're going to start with Spike Spiegel out of his box. And before anybody types it in the comments, or even if you have already, AXN, I figured it out while I was playing around with him. Best action. So don't reprimand me in the comments. It came to me. Yes, I'm an idiot for not figuring it out immediately, but there we go. Now, I also know that these figures have been out for a while, maybe a year, but they haven't been in my area at all until recently. And without ever having seen them and not knowing anything about Best Action, I never wanted to order them. It was one of those things that if I see them, I'll get them. And the Walmarts around me, as I said, just started carrying Spike before Christmas, and now we just got Vicious. So I know they've been around for a while, but they are new to me. So let's put the tape measure to Spike. Let's see how tall he comes at. And to the top of his big mop, he looks to be 5¼ inches tall. And yes, if I didn't have Vicious, he wouldn't match up to anything that I have. Now let's get him closer. Let's take a look at Spike, and we'll look at his articulation, we'll look at his sculpt, and we'll see what we think. Okay, starting with the articulation, as always, we will start at the top, that his head can do a full 360 spin. He can look down. He can kind of look up, but not really. And we got some really good tilt side to side going on. Now his arms will come up to about 90, has a full 360, has a butterfly joint in the shoulder, single jointed elbows that come up past 90, but there's no bicep swivel, there's no hinge and swivel at the elbow. The arms are pretty much static in this position. His wrists twist, and they pivot in and out, which is unfortunate because Spike, as we know, is a gunslinger, and it would be cool if this hand went up and down, but this one just goes in and out as well. He has a bit of an ab crunch. You can see the cut right in there. That he doesn't really go forward very much, but he can go back, and he gets some twist out of it as well, and that's the only twist he has at the waist, is this crunch right here. Now, when I was playing around with it, when I first got him out of the package, you can see that discoloration right there, and I heard a snap when I pushed him forward, that I think it was painted in place. I think the paint had dried, and it had stuck in place, and when I pushed forward, it broke the paint right there. The legs can come out almost to 90. They can go forward. They can go back. He has a thigh swivel. Double jointed knees with some great travel. No boot cut, no calve. The ankle doesn't even pivot, but it does rock backwards. It rocks forwards. And he has a forward-facing pin for some rocker. Now, if nothing else with these figures, I have to admit that the sculpt on these guys is pretty fantastic. I really like the sculpt. I really like the paint app. The only thing I wish that had been done differently with this figure is that they would have put some green highlighting or some green dry brush in his hair, because he had, like, I don't mean that his hair was green in the anime, but it always had like that green shadowing on this big bonnet right here. So that would have been cool if they would have dry brushed in some green and just given it some more detail, made everything pop a little bit more. I really like the lapel on here, the paint app on the tie, the legs suitably pinned, but then you have this little bunching at the ankles here. The shoes, well, the shoes are basically just featureless loafers, but I'm pretty sure that's what he had in the show too. His back, you saw when I showed you this, is just smooth. It's a simple sculpt. It's simple paint apps, but I do like it. However, one issue is right here. That is not overspray. That is some kind of discoloration or a paint glob or something that's baked into the plastic. I can't get it clean. I can't even scrape it off. It's pretty much going to be there all the time. Also, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but Spike's skin tone on his face does not match his arms or his body, his torso. This is much paler on here. Now, having said that, let's bring him forward a little bit more. The paint job on the eyes is fantastic. They're both looking forward. They're both sharp. You can even see the eyebrows underneath that big mop of hair that he has right there. So, like, I think the face sculpt, I think the face paint is very well done. It just doesn't match very well. But other than that, I think the figure looks great. He has this lanky stick figure look, which he and Vicious did have in the anime. So I really like the look of him. Like, this does look like the anime come right off the screen. The only accessory that he comes with that isn't more body parts is his pistol, his Jericho 9mm right here. And it's so small. It is so small. I don't know if you can see any of the detail in it. There's not much. It is fairly featureless, but you can see it's a decent sculpt. You can see the indentation for the trigger. There's nothing in the handle. Like, it's adequately done, but because it's so small, there's really not a whole lot they could have done with it. And this just fits real well into his trigger hand there. For another accessory, Spike comes with his head with the grimace and the side eye going on. And the reason that we're starting with this off is because I want to show you something. There is the peg hole, the ball joint hole in the secondary head. And let's pop this off. That there is the ball joint hole in the primary head. Do you notice anything different? The secondary head, I need to route that out because it doesn't really fit very well. And I feel like that if I keep trying to force it on, look what it did to my fingers. I feel like that if I keep trying to force it on there, you can even hear it squeaking when I try to turn, that eventually this is going to crack the plastic and it'll ruin the head sculpt. So we're going to have to get something like a router or something and carve that out so that it's the same size as this one. Because this one pops very nicely on there. And it moves well. I know you can still hear the squeaking, but it moves so much better, so much easier, and fits on there so much better than the secondary head. Although, truthfully, I'm not a big fan of the side eye anyway, so I may not be using this one too much. Out of the package, Spike comes with his open hand and his trigger hand. And the only other hands that he comes with are a pair of clenched fists. Okay, we took a look at Spike. Now let's take a look at Vicious here. And as you can see, he has that same very lanky stick figure look going on that he had in the anime, just like Spike. So let's put the tape measure to him, and he should come up to be about the same height as Spike. And yeah, just shy of 5¼ And I don't think it's that he's shorter. I think it's that Spike's hair is just bigger. Now let's bring him forward. Let's take a look at him. Okay, so just like with Spike, we're going to start at the top of the head with Vicious, that he can do a full 360 spin with the head. He can't really look up. He can't, whoops, pop that off. He can look down, and not a whole lot of tilt going on to him. His head is much more static than Spike's is. Now, his arms are an interesting story, because this arm comes up like that, and this arm can raise a little bit higher. And the reason that happens is if you look here, there's no trenching, but if you look right here, you can see the extra trenching in his shoulder right here. Also, it doesn't really sit right into the socket, and if that wasn't enough, this pops out very easily. You can see the peg hole in there, and it's almost like this peg isn't long enough to fit in there. Best action, huh? He also has butterfly joints. He has a single jointed elbow with a whole lot of travel going on, and he can do that with both arms. Okay. Once again, no bicep swivel, no hinge and swivel at the elbow, but he does have wrist twist and pivot in and out for all hands. Now, he also has an ab crunch in here. You can see it underneath his coat, but he has much more range of, he has a much greater range of movement with his ab crunch, that he can come forward a little bit more. He could probably go back more, but his coat blocks the way, and as you saw, he has some great swivel at the waist because of it. Now, the coat is very soft, so even though it gets in the way of his crunching backwards, it doesn't traffic cone his leg, so his leg can come out. His leg can go back. His leg can come out to the side, not as well as Spike's, but still pretty good. He has a thigh swivel, double jointed knees, no boot cut, no pivoting, no twisting ankle, but the ankles go back, the ankles go forward, and he has a forward-facing pin for some rocker. Now, as far as the sculpt and the paintwork go for Vicious, you can barely see his face, and that's fine, because you could barely see his face in the anime. But what you can see in there is very Vicious. And I love the sculpt of his hair, this anime hair. They captured this perfectly. He has a really nice soft vinyl jacket. I love the rope, the cord going across the front, holding it together. I really like the sculpt of Vicious. I think it looks really good. You can see his vest underneath, his tie, his button-down shirt. You have the dual collars coming up, the collar coming up from underneath the coat. The back, it's basically featureless, but you can see the wrinkles in it and the long tails. His legs, he has those same pin legs like Spike, but, and I thought they used the same legs, you can see, especially down at the ankles, that the leg sculpts are different for both figures, as well as the shoes. I love the look of Vicious. I think this is fantastic, and despite the problems that we do have with both figures, you saw Spike, we'll see what the problems are with Vicious in a second. I really like the look of these, and the look of Vicious by himself made it worth getting this set, and especially since I think they were both like $15 or $16. Vicious comes with a few more accessories than Spike, and the first thing we're going to take a look at is his katana. And I'll be honest, when I first saw it in the box and I saw the images on the back, it looked like when he was holding this, he was holding it like this, that the scabbard was all one piece with just a handle on it. But the sword does come out, and I think it looks really good. I think it looks really good. I called it a katana, but it's really more of a ninjakin. It's a straight blade sword. I really like the look of this. The paint app, first of all, the bright silver on the blade, the gold on the hilt, the black wrappings. I think this looks really good. I really like the look of this. The scabbard as well isn't bad. It's very featureless, but let me get in there. But that little gold diamond does a lot to just set off the look of the whole thing and make it look complete and ties everything together. Just this little hint of gold on a black scabbard, highlighting the gold for the butt of the hilt and I forget what this. I know it's not called a crosspiece on. I forget what it's called, but it just sets the whole thing off and makes it look complete. Now, there's no place on Vicious to put the scabbard except in his hand. And he has this gripping hand that you're supposed to be able to have him hold the scabbard. And he can, delicately, he doesn't always hold it real well like that, that you might have to turn it, turn it to get him to hold it more securely. But that also stretches out his hand, which could end up causing problems in the long run. See that eventually the hand is just going to stretch out because it is a very soft plastic. That eventually the hand's going to stretch out and he's not going to be able to hold it at all. Another accessory that he comes with is his Raven, and we know this is not a beloved pet because Vicious just blew him up and used him as a distraction. The sculpt on him is pretty good. I really like the look of him. I really like the paint job with the red eyes and the white dot up on his forehead. The beak is well painted, the talons are well painted, and I like the plumage coming out of the top of his head. Now, the problem is that the box very blatantly shows you that the Raven, the bird, is an accessory. However, when I took Vicious out of the box and the Raven was on his shoulder like that, wait, you'll see why I'm having an issue. And the Raven was on his shoulder like that, I pulled him off, and you can see the hole in there, that there's nothing for it to grip onto. There's this somewhat peg right there. I'm pretty sure I broke it. I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be able to take this off and that it's supposed to stay on his shoulder all the time. But I didn't want to do that anyway. I probably would have ended up pulling it off anyway because, no, you don't want that thing on his shoulder all the time. I thought there was going to be some sort of like bumped piece right there that would have been hidden behind it, and then the talons would have just like gripped onto it. But, because then even when you push it down in, it doesn't stay, like it needs to be glued. Like I pulled the glue out of place. See what I mean? Like it just doesn't stay on there. Hold on, let me see something. Get on there. Get on there. Yeah. Yeah, it's not working. So, I'm pretty sure I snapped him off. Oh well, if I have to glue him back on, I'll glue him back on. But truthfully, I like him better without it there. So you have that. So that makes this kind of useless, that if you want to take it off of him, you end up breaking it. Right out of the box, Vicious has his two gripping hands, one to grip his sword, one to grip his sheath. Vicious also comes with a pair of clenched fists that I'm pretty sure are exactly the same mold as the ones that came with Spike. And Vicious comes with an additional left hand that is basically just an open, relaxed hand. I have pretty much nothing that's going to size up with these figures, but here you see Spike and Vicious with Hasbro Marvel Legends Captain Marvel and Psylocke from the Nimrod 3-pack. Here they are with the Hasbro G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes movie core figures at the true 6-inch scale, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And here they are with McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Scorpion and DC Multiverse Azrael. Here they are with Lanyard Toys City Hunter Predator and Xenomorph Drone. And finally, here they are with Jazzware's Wicked Cool Toys Spartan Collection, Noble 6, and Master Chief. And here we have them, Best Action Spike and Vicious by loyal subjects. Are they any good? No, absolutely not. Spike's secondary head wasn't routed out big enough for the ball joint. He has that paint glob that's pretty much baked into his hand that I can't scrape off, and it's going to be there forever unless I repaint it. The skin tone on Spike's two heads doesn't match the rest of his body. The articulation on both of these leaves something to be desired. Vicious's right arm keeps popping out, and I'm pretty sure I broke the bird off of his shoulder, even though the box clearly states that the bird is supposed to be an accessory. I think he was supposed to be glued in there and stay there. And now when I do try to put him on, I can barely get him to stay where he's at. Also, the hand that's supposed to hold the scabbard doesn't hold it very secure unless I turn the scabbard and stretch his fingers out, which is probably going to give me problems in the long run. Now, having said all of that, I do think the sculpt and the paint apps on these things are great, but that's really the only plus that I can give it. Even, like I said, the articulation leaves something to be desired. They're not balanced very well, and all in all, the only reason I have them, and the only reason I'm excited that I have them, is because it's Cowboy Bebop. And I know there was another company out there, I forget who it was. It wasn't Mezco 112. Was it? No, it wasn't Four Horsemen. I can't remember, but there was another company that came out with Sid Vicious, that came out with Spike and Vicious. I can't remember who they are, and I can't find them anyway. So this is what I have, and I am very glad that I have Spike and Vicious represented on my shelf, even with the shortcomings that they have. So that is what I have for you today, my friends. Let me know if you have any of the best action figures, and let me know what you think, because this is my first and more than likely last exposure to this brand, and as I said, the only reason I got it is because it's Bebop, because it's Spike and Vicious. We got more coming for you down the line. We have more blind bags to open. So until then,